like to be somewhat more pragmatic because so many in your world need that sort of understanding, that pragmatism, to realize that there really is no separation between the spiritual dimension, between the metaphysical dimension and the physical dimension, that one reflects the other and vice versa. So if you begin to understand that and understand how one reflects the other and begin to understand that, you are able to, the more you move into that, certainly surrender is a huge dynamic. But what if you didn't have to surrender? What if, in fact, the divine, what if, in fact, God wanted to give you all of the empowerment to begin to change your world from the bottom up, to begin to build a world on truth and fairness, instead of on competition and comparison? Because that's what the world's built on right now. That's what the whole dynamic of almost all of your beliefs are built on right now. As we were saying a little earlier to Marilyn and to Arlene also, is that dynamic of not being enough, not feeling you're enough. Now, you can transcend that dynamic, all right, by giving it over to God. Because God is certainly enough. And so, from our perspective, whatever works.
I hear you.
Well, what is the one thing that we like to say? Everything in your reality is built upon belief systems, so you might as well create the most flexible belief system for yourself possible. Well, that begins examining certain tenets that you have been taught along the way, and we break it down to the chakras, because it's a relatively simple way to begin to understand how you are affected in so many ways. But if you start with the Crown Chakra and you just consider what are all the beliefs, not just the beliefs that you hold, but what are all of the beliefs in the world about your relationship with God?
Right. There's a lot of...
Don't even begin to try to list them, because, we've only got 40 minutes left.
All right.
But it's true.
No, you start to look at it that way.
And if you look at the dynamic of your third eye, are you worthy to speak with the divine? Are you worthy to speak with spirit? Are you afraid to look inside of yourself, to find those pieces of yourself? That's all around third eye. There's a tremendous amount of fear attached to third eye, because you have to go within yourself. Ooh. Then you might have to admit who you really think you are. Not who you really are, but who you think you are.
Well, this is sort of reflective of the levels of deception we've all been living under in the world.
Right.
The self-deception.
Well, and then there's a whole dynamic of word and truth. And as we began this session talking about the dynamics of the lies that go all the way back to Kennedy and 9/11 and all of that stuff, and that you have allowed yourself to be manipulated, you have allowed yourself this reality to happen. And, 9/11 was a kind of an are you sure? It's like, who are you going to be? Or it's just, are you going to ask the question why? Because that's what you could have done. You could have said to yourselves, why did this happen? Gotten to the bottom of it and changed those things that basically caused it to happen in the first place. All right, if you remember about that time, there were places like Cantor Fitzgerald that were claiming to have incomes of damn near $1 trillion a year, while there were 70% of the people on your planet living on less than $2 a day.
Right, the unfairness.
And so we would suggest that there was that dynamic more than anything else that energetically, metaphysically caused that situation to happen. But, again, it's that whole dynamic of the divine is inexorably encouraging you to be more, to learn more, to be more empowered, to be more godlike, not in an egotistical sort of way,
right,
but in a cooperative, caring, loving, compassionate sort of way. Give up the competition and comparison and embrace the caring and connection, and you can begin to move beyond those dynamics. You can begin to become who you really are, and that is a human race.
right, right. And the levels of, to have patience with the fact that these patterns were started in order, say, for instance, competition comparison, were started in order to keep ourselves safe, to survive.
Well, it was a dynamic of being able to move forward.
Right.
If you take the whole understanding of, you take the metaphor of your physical body, and there is no more divine dynamic than that manifestation, is there? Because consciousness has to be conscious.
Mm-hmm.
Don't they?
Yes.
Or does it really just kind of happen automatically? Or is there some divine urge behind each and every one of you to be more, to learn more, to be more of service, to be more in the dynamic of love, to be more in the dynamic of caring, to be more in the dynamic of community, and at the same time, and this is the great paradox, is it not? Do not lose one iota of your hard-fought, hard-won individuality. If you look at the dynamic with a big enough picture, you can look back into your history and begin to see that in the garden experience, you had a collective relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
But now, through the dynamic of your hard-fought, hard-won individuation, you have moved from that collective awareness into the individual awareness that allows you to have, each and every one of you, an individual relationship with God, an individual relationship with all that is. And that dynamic is huge.
The fact that it's gone through that completion to this point of individual relationship.
Correct.
It's a huge expansion of consciousness on the part of the divine. It's a huge
expansion of consciousness on the plane in as far as humanity goes. Now, you might think everything is all screwed up right now, and in many ways it is, because it is the dynamic of that inner urge, that subconscious urge, that unconscious urge to grow and to be more. And so many things in your reality are saying to you, hey, here's an opportunity to be more. Here's an opportunity to be more. Here's an opportunity to be more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which also includes accepting ourselves as we are.
Well, ultimately, that's the truth, isn't it? Realizing that you're good enough.
Right.
You're not perfect, and you're not going to be perfect. Each and every one of you has the same sort of connection with God, the same sort of connection with the divine. Except you hybrids out there, perhaps not. SOTU, are you getting into that? Well, no, not with 24 minutes left. But, we just want to drop it in out there that there's a lot going on. It's very complex. But it's all headed energetically in the same direction, and that is encouraging you as a species to be more, to begin to measure yourselves by how well the least of you are doing, not the best. And as you begin to move in those directions, as you begin to come together with caring and compassion and understanding, it doesn't mean you have to give up capitalism. It doesn't mean that you have to give up striving. It doesn't mean that you have to give up anything like that. It just means that you need to change your attitude. as we said a little while ago, technology has led you to a place where you have individuated to a point that so many of you have forgotten, or if you ever knew, how to really communicate face-to-face with someone. But a heart-centered technology, oh, how far could that take you, dear ones?
To the moon, Alice, and beyond.
And beyond.